You are listening to the Beyond Terrestrial podcast, your one-stop shop for the outstanding, the unconventional, and the downright strange. Strap in because the boys are about to take a wild ride. I'm Funk Master B, setting up that tea for the duo of dumb foolery. Your hosts, Dan and Lee.
Of course I believe in aliens. I mean, in an infinitely growing universe, why would we be the only living species? Bigfoot, Nessie, all that stuff, it's gotta be real. How are we to say that we're the only ones? It's just ignorant. I think aliens are not only from other planets, but they're time travelers.
Welcome back to Beyond Terrestrial, your home for the strange, the macabre, the conspiratorial, and all things supernatural. My name's Lee. I'm coming to you from the Haunted Barn Studios inside the Bell Witch's backyard, and I am joined by my friend, my co-host, my compatriot. Sure, why not? He's definitely not a kaiju. Dan Martson. Dan, how are you?
Hey Lee, what's up? I am Dan. I am recording just down from the crossroads where Robert Johnson made his infamous deal with the devil. And today we are talking monsters, but big monsters. And we brought in a special guest, Lee. Please welcome Brian Sheehan from the TV Trivia Pod.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here and talk Godzilla.
Godzilla.
And Brian, we've got a special treat because we are recording on the 31st. You have taken in the newest Godzilla film.
Yes, very exciting. I thought at first just a special treat to be talking about Godzilla, one of my lifelong loves. And the new movie came out today. I watched it, and I'm excited to talk about it.
We'll save the thumbs up, thumbs down for the end. We'll see what people think. That way people actually listen to the show. Now, Lee, we've covered monsters before. We've done lake monsters. We've done werewolves and vampires. We've done all kinds of different creatures, Sasquatch, right? But these kaiju, they're taking it to another level.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have not ever really discussed something the size of a building, right?
Yeah. Because let's face it, no one claims Godzilla is real. There's no internet conspiracies out there that Godzilla actually exists, which honestly is surprising these days with the amount of conspiracies that exist.
There's a lot of conspiracies.
Yeah, and how crazy they've gotten too, Brian. It's absolutely nutty. Now, you mentioned your love for Godzilla, Brian. For me, it goes back to when I was a kid and saw the original Godzilla film in black and white on a late night TV rerun. How about you? When were you introduced to the king of monsters or kaiju movies in general?
I mean, again, it was when I was a kid too. Which was the 90s for me. We had the movies, we had the VHSs, I had the little action figures, I had Godzilla, Space Godzilla, King Ghidorah, of course, probably Mechagodzilla, and a smaller one that had a type of shell with spikes on its back. I couldn't remember what its name was, but I was just all about Godzilla, the atomic breath. I think everything he does is just so cool.
Yeah, that is one of the best features. How about you, Lee? When did you come into kaiju?
I may get mildly beaten up for this, but I got introduced to kaiju in a film in the late 90s that was based... The listeners can't see my air quotes. That was based on the Godzilla franchise. but it wasn't great. I'm talking about the I believe it was 1998 amazing one, Godzilla.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. Let's get to all this Godzilla stuff. We will dive into the MonsterVerse and we'll talk about that infamous 1998 flop. Oh, that was so bad. One of the worst. But the modern MonsterVerse kicks off in 2014 with the American Godzilla. And Brian, you're the guest. What did you think about that first Godzilla movie since the infamous 98 disaster?
I was happy that they were going with the original concept instead of whatever they came up with for whatever new Godzilla should look like in the 1998 one. I was really happy, really excited about that. Was bummed that there was no one else I recognized in the movie as far as the Godzilla villains go. Mothra being a classic. I thought they might introduce that into the first Godzilla movie, and didn't know what these Mutos were. Mukos.
Mutos.
Yeah, Mutos.
Mutos.
I got a funny story in relation to that, actually. I apologize for interrupting you.
Go ahead.
Paramount actually didn't secure the rights to anybody but Godzilla. That's why they had to invent their own.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think Toho was playing it pretty close to the vest too after the 1998 flop, which is probably this 98 flop is probably a big part of the reason why we got the Godzilla movie we got in 2014. But it turned out that it was a well received critically for a giant monster movie.
Right, which I feel like there's a couple of tough things to do. There has never been a weather disaster movie that I've loved. Day After Tomorrow, I think there's a new one that just came out called Greenland?
Greenland, yeah, that one's got Gerard Butler or something, yeah.
Yeah, 2012 just I didn't even see it, didn't look like it was worth my time. Never saw a good weather movie, and I thought a modern giant monster movie would also be really difficult to pull off. But I will say that, again, I don't know if it's just because I'm already... what's that word when I'm already a little bit emotionally attached to it?
Emotionally
invested? You had a bit of nostalgia for it. Yeah.
A bit of a nostalgia. Yeah, there was this attachment that I already had for Godzilla. So I did enjoy the movie. I definitely don't think it was like amazing, but I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, so this 98 Godzilla movie, I love-hate. I have a love-hate with this movie. Because we see in all the trailers, we see Bryan Cranston, and we're like, yes, Bryan Cranston versus Godzilla, and then he dies
real quick.
And you're like, yeah, and you're left with the guy from Kick-Ass, Aaron Taylor Johnson, right? And what's weird is, so this movie came out in 2014, then in 2015, Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, who plays his wife in this Godzilla movie, are brother and sisters in the Avengers. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a little Game of Thrones-y now that I go back and watch it, because I think they're Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch.
I remember thinking the same exact thing. I was like, wow, what are the odds of this casting here of husband and wife to brother and sister now? Like, what are the odds there?
And
yeah,
that
it's
quick.
A little bit weird now.
Yeah.
So
I will say, with that 98 movie there, I was very young again. Again, as a 90s kid, and that coming out in 98, I remember crying at the end of that movie because Godzilla had died. And I was like, this isn't supposed to happen. And I was emotionally upset that Godzilla had died at the end of that movie. And again, was hoping beyond hope that there would be a sequel with that one egg hatching, as a 6 or 7 year old at the time. And I have not revisited the movie since. But I don't think I'm going to.
Honestly,
but-
they did use that though. I remember I got onto a cartoon kick with that. They had a Godzilla cartoon that was based around that, like the egg hatched and yeah. Anyway,
and they sold more merchandise to kids.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's the whole point. And I don't know. Bryan Cranston is great early in the movie. And he's so good, but except his hair is a little bit weird. Like I don't know if it's a wig or what. I don't even remember. But then he dies off, and we're left with Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's just not nearly as exciting. But at least we have Ken Watanabe as Dr. Serizawa to carry us through the movie. Lee, your thoughts on Ken Watanabe and his performance in this movie and his famous line?
You mean Godzilla? I'm sorry. I couldn't get past that when they first introduced the name, right? And they first discussed it. Like they passed it off to him to say and just was like, take it straight to Japan. Like just take it straight there. And he did it. I mean, he did it. But then they had him say Godzilla about 6 times in 30 seconds. Like so
he has the gravitas to say Godzilla, and he did. It says on the IMDb trivia that he insisted on delivering the first Godzilla with the original Japanese Gojira.
Okay.
I did think that was kind of cool. I did appreciate that.
Yes, good throwback to that. And a lot of the names, they've recycled a lot of these names from the original movies. Serizawa's recycled, so. There's a ton of throwbacks in all of the movies. So the thing about this 2014 Godzilla movie, I guess there's 2 major criticisms. People like Ken Watanabe. They love when he says, let them fight. You know, that's badass. But either you think Godzilla was too fat or you think there wasn't enough Godzilla in the movie. Your thoughts, Brian, on the major criticisms?
Now that you mention it, I do remember having a little bit of a problem with how Godzilla looked. He just was not exactly what I was imagining. I think I do remember this a little more bloated looking figure too. So yes, I'm definitely with you there.
Yeah, they thought that it would be maybe more proportional because this is a much larger Godzilla than what's been portrayed in films. So because he is so huge, he would have to have, you know, a thick base to stand on, I guess.
Sure. I will say too that I do always love when they bring back his theme song, which again is the original one from the Japanese movies, the whole like da 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 da, and I love that. And when they played, there was a part in the trailer where this played as well when they're doing the plane drop off with all that red smoke, and it's just the strings increasing.
Yeah, the halo drop, so good.
Yeah, that scene gave me chills. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, that was really good. A lot of folks compared this Godzilla movie to Jaws in the way that they held back Godzilla until the end of the fight. You know, in the original Jaws movie, you don't really see the shark until he comes out of the water at Chief Brody. And the name of the family is Brody. Like Aaron Taylor Johnson, his dad, their last name is Brody, which is an homage to Jaws, I guess. So
cool.
I mean, is it Jaws like, Lee? I don't know.
You know, I can kind of see that. A lot of the intro stuff, a lot of the initial, like, what you're seeing from Godzilla is just his spines traveling through the water, right? Like you just see like that stereotypical like shark fin almost, except in this case it's like, you know, 70 of them, but just kind of gliding through the water, right? And that's when you first see, like, and until he's officially revealed. One note though that I had on like his thickness was I didn't take it as him being like overweight. I saw it like I was looking at the shoulders, guys. Like he had like football player shoulders. Like it was strange to me because it just seemed like it was more articulated than I would have expected from a giant lizard. So
yeah, it had a very different look from the original rubber suits.
yes.
Gotta say, I don't remember Godzilla's shoulders in the orial. And then the 2014 one.
I don't know what it was, but he had some thick shoulders.
It was a different proportion to that Godzilla, so it did throw some people off. I don't know. Is it like Jaws? I don't really think so. They use some first-person shots in the movie where it's like through the goggles of a gas mask or, through his goggles after the halo jump. I do not like the first-person shots. But other than that, I can't really lay too much criticism on it. It is a really good movie.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lee.
Oh, I was worried right at the very first part of that Halo drop. I was really worried we were going to get into like a Deadpool 2 type of scenario where everybody dies as they hit the ground.
Everybody dies, yeah. That would have been good.
Oh my gosh. What a scene. What a scene.
Sorry, I just watched Deadpool last night, so.
Oh, man. And as far as comparing it to Jaws 2, Jaws, I think is a horror movie, right? Like, I was scared of that when I was a kid. I was never scared of Godzilla when I was a kid. But, like that had that factor in it with Jaws 2 where it just had that horror factor that that Godzilla doesn't have, or I don't think they went that way with the movie. So I wasn't necessarily scared of Godzilla. I knew what he wanted to look like, and just as an avid Godzilla fan, I just wanted to see as much of him as possible. So, but I don't remember being upset that he wasn't in there more. I do remember wishing I would have seen him more, but was happy with what I got.
Yeah, I think the movie really suffers just when Godzilla isn't on, because I just didn't like Aaron Taylor Johnson that much. No offense to Kick-Ass, he's really great in Kick-Ass, but just not as good in this movie. But
he's fantastic at dying.
Yeah, it's like an hour. It's like an hour into the movie before you see Godzilla, and then it's weird because like when he comes out in Hawaii, there's like a tsunami, but then when he comes out in San Francisco, he just kind of like glides out of the bay. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what exactly is going on? I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense.
Speculation theory is maybe he had to escape wherever he was sleeping.
I don't know. Maybe it was just the first time he'd been out of the water in a while, and maybe he had some gas from sleeping down there for thousands of years. I don't know.
I'm just thinking like breaking his way out from wherever he was at Bikini Alto or at Bikini Island or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. That's something we need to touch on is the original themes of Godzilla, Brian. It's all about, the original is all about nuclear weapons and unleashing them on a populace, and Godzilla is supposed to be kind of a symbol for nuclear weaponry. But in 2014, we don't really have quite the same fear of nukes as Japanese people would in the 50s. So what are your thoughts on the 2014 movie and the themes that tries to get across?
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to tell you right off the bat that I don't do super well looking into those kinds of details and like the themes behind and stuff. I do remember hearing that the original Godzilla was maybe a form of almost, I guess, atonement, maybe that Japan might have felt bad for the Pearl Harbor bombings and the nuclear attack that then followed, and how this Godzilla was some recreation of that, and that's why his body is also like all scarred and beat up too. I do remember hearing that somewhere, but I don't know as far as themes for this new Godzilla and what anything that he means in this.
Yeah, it doesn't really connect to the old one very well. I mean, it's 2014. It's made by a big Hollywood studio. It's a giant monster movie. There's really not a lot. They do a little bit, with there's like a nuclear reactor that gets shut down, and it's very reminiscent of like the Fukushima disaster. So there is a little bit of an environmental message in there, but it all gets washed away by the giant big budget Hollywood movie that surrounds it, I think. Lee, your thoughts?
I kind of agree with that. It is a little strange that there's not the same connection. I do like that they tried to create some sort of a backstory, some sort of they weren't testing nuclear weapons, they were using them, they were trying to kill something, which is kind of an interesting scenario there. But I mean, other than that, there's not a whole lot of connection to the original, and I think that's. I don't think that they wanted to go with that route. I think the original connected great with Japan-based audiences and some people in the U.S. Because of its relation, or I guess analogy to the atomic bombs, right?
Yeah, it's a bit more topical.
It's
in the 50s.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And in more modern times, it's not as topical for us. So it went after more of the big budget Michael Bay style. Let's have some explosions and have something destroy something. And honestly, I think they did a decent job. I do.
Yeah, have our army guys save the day, right? Very Michael Bay. Well, Lee, you touched on it, the backstory and the threads that connect all these MonsterVerse movies, notably the Monarch Corporation. We've established the MonsterVerse with this Godzilla movie. We will move on to the other movies after we take a quick break.
Welcome back to Beyond Terrestrial. Guys, we've been discussing Godzilla, the new MonsterVerse. We just finished the 2014 movie. Dan, what are we going to do next?
Next is Skull Island, Kong Skull Island from 2017, Lee.
Kong Skull Island.
Now, Brian, your overall thoughts on the second entry into the MonsterVerse and King Kong?
And before we even get there, I wanted to also throw out that I thought it was interesting that Toho made a Shin Godzilla in 2016. Not long after this one.
There you go. Yeah, it is. And doesn't in Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla defeats the lizard Godzilla from 1998?
I can't. I don't.
It's in one of those Toho movies. They bring back the 98 Godzilla just so the real Godzilla can crush him.
This one didn't even have another kaiju in it. This was a whole reboot. They rebooted Godzilla here. This wasn't a continuation from any of the other ones. In Shin, they started with, a creature that became Godzilla as it mutated
and he
evolved.
Yes, he does evolve. I remember that now. I remember him coming out of the ocean with like no arms and evolving into Godzilla.
And a very interesting scene at the end with a close-up of his tail that I would love to know more information on it. I don't know if I want to give it away or something, but anyway, I just thought it'd be interesting to bring up Shin Godzilla real quick.
Yeah, those Toho movies, all really good. Then they do a very good job at creating a continuity out of movies that are all like very different and have different eras. And I mean, go back to the 50s, and some of them are cheesy as heck. But it kind of is its own thing that is very, very special, I think, the Japanese movies. But the American ones, the big budget ones, they roll from Godzilla to Kong because they are looking for the bucks. Right?
Yes.
And I think what's crazy about this Skull Island movie is that they've set it during Vietnam, which is not an era that people expect for, a giant monster movie. Like the 70s has been kind of overlooked. There's the 50s when Godzilla comes out, and there's these modern ones. But for American audiences, a lot of that time is skipped in the middle.
Right, and I understand why they had to do it with Kong being a lot smaller then, and I think we all knew we were leading up to this remake of King Kong versus Godzilla from I think the 60s or something, so we knew it was coming, and they had to have that line in this movie that said he's still growing. So by the time we can get to this now 2021 movie. He is now the same size as Godzilla and able to fight on more equal playing grounds.
Yes, for sure. And what's crazy is even though he's still growing, this version of Kong in Skull Island was the largest Kong ever put to screen. So now he's just going to get bigger. But like the Peter Jackson Kong was just a gorilla, like 25 feet tall. This Kong, not a gorilla, massive, is more bipedal, the Kong they do in Skull Island. Lee, your thoughts on kind of updating Kong from the gorilla to a more of a almost Sasquatch like kaiju?
Yeah, so when I looked at that, and I thought the Peter Jackson one was an okay movie. And I honestly thought the Peter Jackson one going into Skull Island, even well after Skull Island, because I didn't realize that it was a sequel, or like Skull Island was a sequel to that Peter Jackson Kong. It's not, actually. Peter Jackson did a Kong movie, and then a few years later, they came out with another Kong movie to create the Monsterverse. And I like the way that they went about it. I think they more likely it was more like they took Kong back to its kind of roots, right? Original Kong was a guy in a monkey suit, walked more bipedal, right? And I think that by making him more bipedal, by pulling away from that, it makes him a little bit more human, where there was that hard connect with why Kong's falling in love with a woman when he looks like a gorilla. I mean, it's still kind of weird, and it didn't do that in Skull Island really at all, but you kind of think like, oh, it makes a little more sense, right? To me, at least.
Yeah. So, Brian, one thing you talked about with Jaws is how it's a bit more of a horror movie. For me, the King Kong movies were always a bit more of a horror movie because when you get to Skull Island, there's all of these weird creatures, and they fall down in a pit, and there's worms, or in this movie they have these spiders with bamboo legs that stab people, and birds that do all kinds of it's a bit more of a horror movie, and I liked that they took this Skull Island movie to that place. Your thoughts on the horror of Skull Island?
There were definitely more scenes in this King Kong movie that made me jump a little bit more. Maybe not jump, but like, whoa, wasn't expecting that whole spider bamboo leg scene where they took care of some people there. Wow. But yeah, I did. I liked the King Kong movie. Again, I thought it was good, and again, not another great movie. I guess again, I was hoping for maybe like something else I might have recognized from those old movies. Again, the main, I guess, bad guy monster are these skull crawlers, I think they're called.
Yeah.
Which again were cool looking, and it was cool to see King Kong take care of some of them too. But I remember something not necessarily clicking with me, but still enjoying it enough.
Yeah. Lee, what did you think? Was the movie scary at all? Were the other creatures freaky enough for you?
You know what? I think I'm a little bit spoiled by things like Pacific Rim and other things like that, right? These giant monsters and the ways that they look, they're just blending together to me in many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, the skull crawlers were cool, but they weren't like anything crazy. And I think one thing, like, we keep talking about it being a great or not being like a great movie. We got to remember, these are giant monster fighting movies. They're not intended to be a great movie.
Right. They're not going to be the new Matrix or Shawshank Redemption or, Dark Knight or something. It's, yeah.
And if they were, it would be a surprise to me, right? Like, so, like,
this movie has a pretty star-studded cast, though. I mean, you got, just from the Marvel movies, you got Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, Sam Jackson, John C. Reilly,
yep,
Toby Kebbell, who tangentially related to the Marvel movies because he was Doctor Doom in that terrible Fan Four Stick movie, and then you had John Goodman, and I mean, it was just a really good cast in this flick. Yeah. I thought, but I mean, at the end of the day, it is still a giant monster movie. John C. Reilly, really good in this movie as kind of a bit of comic relief to it.
I did like him in this.
I also did. I mean, I liked the movie. I just was thinking to myself when we're talking about it being fantastic, I'm just like, oh, well, they're giant monster movies. That's what I went to see, but...
Right. Yeah. I will say, too, I wanted to bring back another point we were talking about earlier. Another reason why I think it's hard to make these giant monster movies is, I think, something we saw in Man of Steel as well, where it's just maybe hard to justify... Maybe not justify, but what do you do next after all this destruction? Godzilla just leveled San Francisco, I think. And do we solve that by never shooting another scene in San Francisco? Or, like, do they rebuild? Like, I guess the whole what happens next after that. So I think that's a hard part to come to terms with in these giant monster movies. But I also I did like how they explained what Godzilla was doing. He's not just monkeying around and, just destroying cities. He is asserting his dominance. He is the alpha monster and has to remain the alpha monster and fight for his territory, which I guess is basically Earth. So I did appreciate that maybe like biological, making sense of what he's doing.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. And Kong is the same way, except in this movie, he is more of an adolescent who has competition for the top spot just on Skull Island. So I think that's a nice little twist that they threw in there. And there's a lot of literary references in this movie. Tom Hiddleston's character is named Conrad. Joseph Conrad wrote a book called Heart of Darkness that was the basis for Apocalypse Now, a very famous Vietnam movie. And then Samuel L. Jackson's character, Colonel Packard, is essentially Captain Ahab. Kong is his white whale, because after Kong destroys all the helicopters, he goes on a we're gonna get this monkey kind of kick at all costs, and in the end it costs him his life before he can get to his famous Sam Jackson MFer line. It's one of those movies where he gets part of it out and then dies.
Okay.
That way they don't have to edit it for TV.
I like it.
Now, I can't remember in the 2014 Godzilla movie, But this had something after the credits as well, right?
Yeah, so this, I love the post-credits scene.
Always
in
love
this one
post-credit
because,
scenes, yeah.
Yeah, it's very Marvel-esque, and it's got Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, and it's like, oh yeah, here we go. There's more. And you see the cave paintings, and you see the other kaiju, and it's like, here we go. We are gonna bring it all together. And that's what they do in the next movie, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, 2019. And Lee, I mean, I was complaining a little bit about not seeing enough Godzilla in the first movie. They went a full 180 in the next one. Mm-hmm. It was all Godzilla.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked that they started bringing in more of the characters you would recognize, right? King Ghidorah.
Yes.
And the Mothra, right? And I really did like the overall scheme of it. But you're right, Dan. I mean, they absolutely did a 180. They're like, here's more Godzilla. So it makes me wonder. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you wonder about like what the politics are. Like, what if like to me, I'm wondering if they only had so much time they could run Godzilla in the first movie, right? Like there was only so much time they had available to them that they had paid for. So.
Yeah, I think the first movie, it's an artistic choice. And then this movie, it's, again, another choice, but it swings the pendulum all the way to the other end.
You've seen him. Now we don't have to be coy about it.
Yeah. It's the cat's out of the bag. Let's do it. And, you know, Brian, you were talking before about the other monsters. I mean, they bring them all in. Well, all the heavy hitters, right?
Oh man, I was so excited to, I haven't seen King Ghidorah in so long, so it was very exciting to see him again. King Ghidorah, Mothra. Wasn't as familiar with Rodan, but was super excited that they brought all these characters back. And I will say, I feel like this is. I like that they're doing this multiverse thing. I'm really into this idea that it seems like maybe Marvel kind of started doing, but I feel like at this point Marvel has still been doing it best. I enjoy the Marvel movies, but again, don't think they're like the greatest thing in the world. But it just seems like with all these other franchises, this whole dark universe that they try to do with the Mummy and that one, the DC one here, this new MonsterVerse. This retention of characters in the new Godzilla movie, we see no one from the first Godzilla. Well, not that I remember, none of the big characters. No one from King Kong, which again did happen in the 70s, so I guess that makes sense. But it's if you're trying to do this multiverse type thing, cinematic universe, I should say, it is nice to have that consistency, in your characters.
Yeah, and that's that part of the Godzilla King of the Monsters is really good because we do have Serizawa come back from the 2014 movie. Ken Watanabe kind of anchors that movie and ties it together, and then spoiler alert, sacrifices himself for Godzilla, which is actually pretty cool little scene. There's
is that the
like
underwater
the Hollow
scene?
Earth. Yes, the Hollow Earth stuff that they revealed. I thought that was a really cool deal. Lee, you're our Fortean guy. You love that Hollow Earth, Lost Continent of Mu, Atlantis sort of stuff. They put it all into this movie. They're like, yeah, Lost Civilization. Boom, there it is.
Yeah, I really think that they were going after something that's right up my wheelhouse. I love that kind of thought process. I love the Hollow Earth, Atlantis, all of those. One of the basics of my reality in the world.
Yes. I saw in the IMDb page in the trivia, and I'm gonna have to go back to the movie and rewind. But they said one of the kaiju is called Leviathan, and it is based in Loch Ness. So I don't know. Go to the map of the kaiju when they come up and pause the movie, see if they have one up there in Scotland. I don't know.
Interesting.
But they did make up a bunch of kaiju for the movie. So they were like, you know, the Mastodon and a bunch of these others are kind of, some of them are based on older Toho kaiju. Maybe they didn't have the rights to them, so they had to give them a different name, but they've got it all. They brought it all out. But other than Ken Watanabe, I don't know about I think the rest of the cast of this movie kind of suffers because there's so much monster fight action, right? Like, does anyone care about Kyle Chandler in this movie? No. I'm like, oh, that's the coach from Friday Night Lights, right? Like, every time he gives a speech about the monsters and how they're going to track them, I expect him to finish with clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose, and then go out there and beat the monsters. But that never happens. I feel a little bit let down.
I will say, again, if I'm doing the thumbs up, thumbs down game with this one too, something I try and tell people, I think a good rule to live by is the key to happiness is low expectations. Which
what I try to do with my girlfriend every night.
which I think is something that I think comes to most, what I can see the most in has worked in is Guardians of the Galaxy and the first Avengers movie. You know, by the time the first Avengers movie came out, I was a little tired. You know, we've done superhero movies now for years. How are they, like, they're decent with one superhero. How are they going to make a good movie with 6? And I was impressed. You know, this was good. The same thing happened with Guardians of the Galaxy. I see a talking raccoon in the trailer. I'm like, this is going to be garbage. You know, this.
Yeah,
how are they
no
gonna
one
salvage
expected that
this?
one.
And I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. This exceeded my expectations, and I think I was just so excited about seeing King Ghidorah again that maybe my expectations were a little too high with this movie, and maybe it didn't quite hit where I wanted it to.
Yeah. Well, I do like that they preserved his alien origins. At least they did have that in the movie, so that was really good. Again, parts of this movie just like don't make a lot of sense. Parts of all these monster movies don't make a lot of sense. You know, they have all the helicopters in Skull Island that take off from the boat, and then you're like, wait, that's more helicopters than were on the boat, right? They're in Bermuda underwater, and then just fly to Antarctica. How long did it take them? I don't know. That's got to be at least a 12-hour flight, dude.
Dan, the timing on how long it takes them to get to Antarctica is your breaking point in a movie where there's a giant reptile that is capable of shooting atomic energy out of his mouth. And this is your catch.
I'm just saying.
I love it.
I'm just saying that maybe a little dash, a little hint of realism here there sprinkled throughout the movie.
What, did you want to
give it?
Did you want to like 20 minutes of them just like bullshitting on a plane? Like,
no. I'm just saying. Like, they're in Antarctica. They're gonna bring out King Ghidorah, and they're like, "Oh, we found them. They're in Antarctica. Let's go get them from Bermuda." Oh, well, come on now, dude. It's gonna take a minute. So just give us some kind of notion that time has passed. Like, the people in Antarctica wake up the next day and like, okay, now we're gonna open it up. Like, we just need a little something there.
5 o'clock shadow or something on somebody's face. Like,
they're drinking coffee. Like, it's been 12 hours. Are we ready to get King Ghidorah out now? Like that. We need something.
How'd you sleep, Ron?
Throwaway line of dialogue.
How'd you sleep, Ron?
Exactly.
I did forget King Ghidorah was an alien in the original ones, but they did bring that back too in the Godzilla, I guess, anime series they kind of brought to Netflix. They did a trilogy of Godzilla anime movies, and King Ghidorah. They very abstract take on King Ghidorah in those movies, but I guess again it came from space.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And-
in those movies, he was a god. Sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I love discussions of Ghidorah. I didn't know the heads have names.
I did not either.
There you go. This is genius. Their names are Ichi, Ni, and San, which is Japanese for 1, 2, 3.
Nice and simple. Nice and simple.
Smart.
can't forget that.
Yeah, and the middle head is supposed to be like the one in charge, and the two other heads are like, henchmen, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Hype
And they
men.
grow back. They grow back.
Hype men.
Yeah. Henchmen.
No, hype men. I'm just imagining they don't have any control. They're just there talking crap.
Doing a Ghidorah rap. I can see that. That would be good.
Did the heads grow back in the new one?
Yeah, in
Yes.
this,
Yes,
in this
they did.
2019 one, they grow back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, Charles Dance, who played Tywin Lannister on Game of Thrones, his character's name is like Jonah or something like that. He gets a hold of one of the severed heads of Ghidorah, which probably we think might be a hint for like a Mecha Ghidorah, maybe. I don't know. We've got someone who's maybe seen the next movie here. Don't give us any spoilers, though.
No
I'm
spoilers.
holding out to go
I promise
see
I
it in
won't
the
give.
theater.
Yeah, I promise I won't give any spoilers. But what was it? The middle head that Godzilla took off in the second one in King of the Monsters?
Oh, you know what? I don't remember if it was the middle one. I thought it was one of the side ones.
Because I know
Lee, do
when
you remember?
I don't
I just
remember.
watched it today.
I do not remember.
Maybe it was. I think it might have been.
in that case, then I definitely seeing that in theaters would have definitely got me pumped up for Mecha King Ghidorah because I know that because that's again absolutely a thing I'm familiar with from the Toho ones. So I would have been very pumped to see that.
Yeah. And then, you were saying, Brian, about where do they go from, the city destruction. In this movie, they destroy like half the planet. They just take it out everywhere. All the kaiju, they pop out of wherever they're living. They destroy it. They destroy the whole East Coast, it seems like. Washington, D.C., Boston, just gone. But then at the end of the movie, in the end credits, it's like, oh, everywhere the kaiju have been, there's nice plants growing. Look at the pretty flowers. Never mind the tens of thousands of people who were killed. But look at all these pretty flowers. And oh, look, the kaiju poop. It could be used for fuel.
Man, I have not seen these movies since I first watched them in theaters. And this is not a part that stuck with me.
Yeah, the end just strikes a weird tone with me in the end credits. But, I mean, it does set up the next movie, the Godzilla versus Kong showdown, and that's all we really want. So, yeah, I just thought this movie didn't make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. It's got a MacGuffin, the orca that controls the kaiju. I thought that was, okay, but it seems a little bit odd that, this little box can control King Ghidorah, an alien, right? Sent to conquer the earth. Just, I don't know. But also, giant monster movie, so whatever, suspension of disbelief.
So
And does that bring us to the newest one?
I think
I
it
think
does.
so, but before we give our thumbs up or thumbs down from Brian, we need to take a quick break. And we're back. Guys, we have been talking kaiju. We have linked all these monster movies together in the Monsterverse in preparation for Godzilla vs. Kong, which dropped today. We have seen the Monarch Corporation go from its 50s infancy trying to nuke Godzilla through its hard times in the 70s looking for money in Vietnam, all the way up to its more shadowy, nefarious kaiju protecting ways. Like it just grows exponentially, and so does this MonsterVerse.
Yeah,
into
drives Bryan Cranston crazy.
Movie.
Like
right, yeah. It's so good. It gets bigger and bigger, and then we get to where we are now, 2021, pandemic, movie drops on HBO Max and in the theaters, which I'm gonna go get my COVID shot just so I can go to the theaters and watch it.
It's worth it for Godzilla.
Exactly, I'm holding out. But Brian, you checked it out. What did you think of the new movie?
First off, I do want to say, as far as kaiju movies are concerned as well, the only other I can think of in the last 10, 15 years here is Pacific Rim, which I think we mentioned earlier. And I have to say I like Godzilla more than Pacific Rim.
There you go. So that's definitely a plus. And we've seen some cool stuff in the trailers for this movie. I mean, like Kong and Godzilla on an aircraft carrier duking it out. Like, sign me up. Like, I'm in. Sold.
As far as thumbs up or thumbs down here, confident thumbs up for this movie here.
There you go. It's a big plus. So go check it out. It's on HBO Max. You guys, HBO Max is where it's at. So many good movies on there.
And that's only for 30 days, I think.
Yeah, it's only till the end of the month, yes. So get on there. It's 30 days or 31 days. So there you go. Get in it. Lee, did I give you my HBO Max password?
No, you keep hinting at it, and then you go away. You're like, I'm going to give you that password, and then you're like, hey, did you see this puppy over here? Like, such a cute puppy.
I got to go to the bathroom right now. Lee, you get the check.
Oh, he's not wrong about that. And we just, like, now Dan, you made it so you can't do it because somebody at HBO just listened to this or will have just listened to this.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We should put it out there. Well, what are you going to do? They're missing out on a viewer. But yeah, no, we're holding out. We'll see. I'm going to avoid all the spoilers until I get the jab and I get into the theater, because I got to see it on the big screen. There's nothing like kaiju on the big screen. You should have seen the politicking I had to do with my wife to get her to go to Pacific Rim. I was like, no, we're going to that movie in the theater. Like, that's not one you wait for on DVD. No. Mm-mm.
How'd that go over
there's
with
definitely
Sarah?
those movies.
Yeah.
So this is one of them. So we love it. We love giant monsters. And Brian, we are fans of TV Trivia Pod. Tell us about your show.
I host a podcast called TV Trivia Pod where I do trivia questions from TV shows. I love this type of thing. You mentioned it earlier, IMDb Trivia. I check it out after every movie. It's just something I love to do. And you mentioned how you were on Jeopardy, which is so cool. Really impressive. I've never been good at trivia, but I love whenever there's TV or movie rounds at the bar. You know, I love that. So I have made a podcast just dedicated to that TV movie round. So again, I'm not doing that behind the scenes stuff. These are questions like, for example, from The Office, what's the name of Michael Scott's screenplay? You know, Dwight has a bed and breakfast.
Threat Level Midnight.
There it was. Threat Level Midnight. Dwight has a bed and breakfast with 3 themed rooms. What are the 3 themes?
Oh, no, I got nothing there. That's a good one.
Oh, I think I had this one. Oh.
Bears, Beats, and Battlestar Galactica?
Oh, I can't remember, but I remember hearing that question somewhere. I must have listened to your podcast at one point.
Oh, it was in there. It was in there. This was Pam and Jim stayed in the irrigation themed room. There were pipes all over the walls and stuff.
Nice.
There was also America and Nighttime, were the
Nighttime.
were the three themes. But so again, it's just asking questions. If you've seen the show, you can answer these questions here. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. It's almost kind of a watch along too, because you say we're going to do these episodes, and it's really cool. I like the way it's formatted. We could have used you at my last trivia night. We had a question about the middle names of all the characters from Friends. I'm like, oh God, middle names. Yeah, I don't know. Chandler's middle name was Muriel, I guess. I don't know.
Wow. I am planning on covering Friends at some point. Again, right now I've covered The Office, some of The Office, Rick and Morty, and The Boys. I'd like to finish covering The Office. I'd love to cover It's Always Sunny sometime.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, yeah.
Maybe Community.
Rick and Morty Season 5 trailer just dropped. So, guys, check out all this stuff. All these great shows, the Monsterverse, TV Trivia Pod, and keep looking out for more from out there, Beyond Terrestrial.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Terrestrial, all three of y'all. If you're still a fan of this show, follow Beyond Terrestrial on social media and join the Beyonders Facebook group for even more strangeness. Links to everything, including previous episodes, are available at beyondterrestrial.com. That's the place to go for stickers, merch, show swag, and our Patreon. Patrons get exclusive access to ad-free shows, giveaways, and the unedited after-show show. Anything you give to the show goes straight to Funk Master B's bachelor pad, which for now is also where these giant turkeys record this show. This show was edited by Simple Equations Media with music by Mike Root. Dan and Lee will be back next Tuesday with more from Beyond Terrestrial.